Hey, this is Chad with BeGoneForGood, talking today about the Honda CB500X and why this is the best adventure bike you can start on. Stay tuned. Today's video I'm going to be doing about my first bike, my first love, the vehicle that got me to think that adventure biking was really not just a hobby, but a lifestyle that I'm going to probably be pursuing for a long time, the Honda CB500X. This video is going to be built around a little bit of my experience, but also some of the tips I have as far as why I think this is the best bike to start your adventure bike experience on. And why I think this is going to be the best for you. First off, the Honda CB500X is a great bike because it's competent at everything. It's a great on-road bike. It does a great job off-road. It covers a lot of bases, not particularly perfectly in any of those categories. Obviously, each one of them leaves a little something to be desired, a little bit to achieve, but it's competent. It does a great job of hitting all of those bases reasonably well, especially for a first-time bike. I don't know that it's only a first-time bike, but it's certainly should be at the top of the list for anybody who's looking to get into ADV biking, or somebody who's maybe returning to motorcycling. If you did it as a kid and they're starting to get more back into it now, it's the perfect bike for that because it can accomplish so many different things depending on just a couple of different accessory changes that you might make to it, the tires that you've got on it, how you've got it geared. Things of that nature can make some small changes in there to a bike that ultimately is very, very versatile and can hit a lot of different categories. The second reason why the CB500X is a great bike is the ergonomics. There's so much available to change it. The seat height makes what would be a normally rather tall bike completely accessible to shorter riders. I am not a shorter rider. I stand at 6'5", so I tend to be one of on the taller side of the ADV community. But they also make seats that you can raise up, and the bike fits me fine. The thing that's amazing to me is that in doing my research on this bike, I saw riders as short as 5'3" get on this bike and be able to operate it competently and confidently. I then got on the bike at 6'5" and equally felt comfortable. I didn't feel like my knees were in my chest, the handlebars weren't hitting. It's just a great bike. The layout for it is really, really comfortable. On top of that, any little changes that you need to make, if you do need your feet a little bit farther forward, if you have knee problems or just don't want to be riding in that capacity, there are tons of different options to kind of move those items around and make the bike a little bit more acceptable to whatever body position you want to ride in. If you want to be more hunched over, you can get different bars, you can get those swayed back. If you want to sit up more, they make seats that have a range of different areas that you can sit in, whether you want to be close to the tank or further from the tank like I do. All of that can be accomplished on this bike for a reasonable amount of money, which again is a great reason why this bike is a good beginner or even entry bike to get into this community. The third reason why the CB500X is a great bike for entry riders, beginners, things along those lines is the power. It's extraordinarily linear. So the same power that you can expect at throttle on is the same power you can expect at 40 miles an hour when you throttle on. It doesn't have a curve on it or anything along those lines. But also, it's powerful enough to be enjoyable. It's powerful enough to be exciting. It's powerful enough to pass if you need to. But it's also not so powerful that it's gonna run away from you. Obviously, you can do stupid things on just about any bike, but I feel like this bike, more so than some others that I've ridden, is really, really great about tamping down the aggressiveness. So for a first-time rider like I was, I know that I could have easily gotten drunk with power right off the bat and made some really poor choices. But this engine didn't really allow you to go too crazy on that sort of thing. I will be completely honest with you, when I got down to Mexico and Honduras and we were opening up at 85 and 90 miles an hour on the highway, there was a little something lacking there. And I think you'll find most CB500X riders will probably tell you the same thing, that on the upper end, this bike just doesn't have it. But ultimately, if you're riding within the bounds of what most legal limits are here in the States, and especially as a beginning rider, this bike will cover you more than adequately in all those environments. So again, I don't know that this is necessarily a long-term bike. I don't know that this is necessarily the type of bike that you're going to live with for the rest of your life unless you're okay with moderate riding conditions. But it is a perfect starter bike for those reasons, is that before you get too confident, before you get too crazy with your abilities and your skills, to have an engine that will rein you in just a little bit, or at least smooth out some of those rough edges, is a great option and a really good way to go. The fourth reason that I love the CB500X, and this is a big one, or at least it was for me, is the low barrier to entry as far as cost is concerned, and the ease of the maintenance cycle. One of the first things that I bought when I got the CB500X was the maintenance manual, the big shop guide that they give out. I think it's the Haynes manual that you can find on Amazon. I went through and I made sure that I understood that bike top to bottom. It was really exciting for me. It was the first time I'd ever been working on a bike, and the capability of removing everything that you need to and getting it all back on, and how descriptive that manual was as far as how that's done on the bike was really, really helpful to me, to building my confidence and my understanding of what I was working with there, to the point where when I had to do field maintenance, I felt very good about being able to do that with just the tools that I brought, knowing full well that I could take this bike apart and put it back together as easily as I had in my garage. Fantastic feeling. The confidence that it gives you to do things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise, or to go places that maybe you wouldn't otherwise, is paramount. Down in Guatemala in the jungles, that would be a terrifying thought if I didn't know that anything that went wrong with that bike, as long as it's not catastrophic, I could take care of. That's a lifesaver in that type of situation. The other part is the barrier to entry, and I think a lot of people maybe don't understand that no matter what bike you get, you probably have anywhere between $500, if you're a remarkably good shopper, to maybe $2,000 worth of stuff extra that you have to buy, from pants and boots and gloves and helmet, all sorts of stuff that comes along with that if you want to be riding safely, that nobody really factors in right off the bat. So if you've got a $6,000 budget and you go out and buy a $6,000 bike, you're going to be hurting when your gear comes around. So the fact that this is ranging somewhere in the neighborhood of between that $5,000 and $7,000 for a bike is really, really spectacular. Especially also if this is not something that you know you're going to be interested in for a long time. This is a great way to get started. It's a low amount of money that you can put down initially. They hold their value exceptionally well. So if, unlike me, you don't love it first day, first week, first month, you can always get rid of that bike for a small hit. Even if it's brand new, they hold their value extraordinarily well. So that's another thing that I think is really great, is you're not dropping $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on a bike just to find out that this isn't something you really want to do, or maybe that it doesn't fit you the way that you wanted it to. So that's one of the great things about this bike. And I was really, really happy with that also, because I didn't have $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to be spending on a bike. So I would have just not gotten involved had it not been for this perfect bike coming at the perfect time that allowed me to get into adventure riding and really find something that I was passionate about. Okay, this last one, number 5, is I guess a little bit of a cheat, just because it's kind of endorsing another company outside of Honda, but one of the things that really drew me to the CB500X was that Rally Raid made a kit that would allow this bike to expand and become something a lot more than what the stock bike was. Obviously, Rally Raid makes kits for other bikes as well, and is kind of branching out further and further every year. They'll probably have one in 20 years for every bike that you know out there. But right now, the CB500X has a fantastic kit available from Rally Raid to step you up to that next level. If you get the bike, you find out that you like riding on the road, you like doing some light off-road work, whether that's fire trails or things along those lines, you can get into a little bit more robust off-road bike by putting this Rally Raid kit on. And again, the dollar amount is a huge factor here. If you're talking about a $5,000, $6,000 bike that you throw a $1,500 kit in, you're still below a lot of other ADV bikes out there that you're going to be dropping $10,000, $15,000 on, and you have a perfectly capable bike in that same process. There are a lot of people that'll go out there on a $10,000 or $12,000 bike and ride alongside the CB500X and complement its capability to stick with the pack in those type of environments. That is a great asset to have when you're talking about beginning riders. Coupled with that, and this is something I didn't realize at the time, but it was really fantastic, is that because the Rally Raid kits are so rare out there, is that when you put one of them on your bike, it makes it a desired bike. I had a lot of offers when I went to sell my bike because the Rally Raid kit was already installed. There were guys out there that just didn't want to put the expense in, didn't want to wait the time, didn't want to do the work, just kind of wanted a ready-to-go CB500X with the Rally Raid. I had already done the work because I wanted to tear down the bike. I wanted to learn more about it. The Rally Raid kit is a great opportunity to get familiar with that and turn a little wrench on your bike and see how that works for you. And I'm very glad for that opportunity. That was a huge boon to my capabilities on the Rally Raid, or excuse me, on the adventure bike trail, to know that was something that I could do and something that I was confident in doing. So the Rally Raid kit for the CB500X was probably the second greatest point to me buying the CB500X, knowing that as I graduated in my experience and my skill level, I could also graduate the bike with me. All right, so that was my top 5 reasons why the CB500X is a great bike to utilize for beginning, returning riders, even riders that maybe aren't confident on bigger bikes and just kind of want to try out the adventure bike category. The CB500X is a great way to go. Coupled along with that, and I'll add this down in the description below, check out the Rally Raid kit. They've changed a few things since I did it, but the kit itself is essentially the same. I think they've gone from, instead of level 1, 2, and 3 to just a level 1 and a 2. But it's a spectacular addition to that bike if it's something that you're interested in. I would offer that if you are interested in the CB500X, ride the stock bike for a little bit. It is a very capable machine. If after a while you've determined that you want to step up to that Rally Raid, by all means do it. I would suggest that highly as well, because it is a great addition to that bike. If you have any questions, if you want to know anything else about the CB500X, I'm extraordinarily well acquainted with that bike after a couple of years of riding it, so feel free to leave me a comment. Any suggestions on anything else you want to know about the bike, please also let me know. If you like this video and want to see more like it, subscribe to our channel. We'll continue to produce as much as we can for you and get all your questions answered. Thanks a lot. This is BeGoneForGood.